Welcome into Tennessee Titans today. I am Tom Downey, here with a look at some surprise cut candidates based on the ESPN 53-man roster projections. Some interesting names not making it for Tennessee. Before we break down my 5, which is also kind of 6, I'm a cheater in this context, list, we are so close to 4,000 subscribers, 94 away, right on the precipice of it. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe. You get free Titans videos almost every single day once you subscribe to Titans Today. Our first surprise cut candidate, Josh Malone, who we've talked about several times on this show as a noteworthy standout / winner of OTAs and minicamp. He was making some significant plays, and he looked like a potential roster piece. He did not make the ESPN roster projection, and in a team that doesn't have that many roster battles, to be honest, receiver is one of the ones that stands out to me. ESPN and Turron Davenport went with 6 names on the list. In order, Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Treylon Burks, no surprise there. Those 3 guys are locks. Then it was Dez Fitzpatrick, Racey McMath, and Kyle Phillips, all the 3 selections. He also mentioned Mason Kinsey as a potential option, and Josh Malone, who did not make it. I would argue that I think McMath and Phillips are actually in the best spots as draft picks, 5th-round pick this year, 6th round last year, plus obvious special teams value for McMath and Phillips. Neither Fitzpatrick nor Malone has that much special teams value, but Malone is doing everything possible to force his way onto the Titans roster for a player who has not done very much in his time in the NFL. Most of his chances coming with the Jets. He's got a total of 91 career touchdowns. It maybe is a slight stretch to call Malone a surprise cut candidate. Not that many names that jump out, to me at least, as obvious surprise guys. So with that in mind, name a player, ideally one who most people have heard of. If you're cutting the UDFA 5th-string tight end, well, yeah, that's a little obvious to me. So name a player who you want to cut in the comments section. Let's go to the offensive line now. Daniel Munyer on the list as he was cut, and I'm almost more surprised by who made it over him. He has served mainly as a depth piece the last 3 years on the roster, on the practice squad, but he's hung around this Titans organization for a long time now. Look at the roster projection on the offensive line here. Taylor Lewan made it, Jamarco Jones, Ben Jones, Nate Davis, Dylan Radins, also had Aaron Brewer, I forgot about him. He's supposed to be there at left guard. Corey Levin, Nicholas Petit-Frere. Okay, that all makes some sense. Jalen McKenzie, making it for Tennessee was the interesting one to me as they went 9 deep on the offensive line. Munyer briefly spent time with the Colts in 2019 preseason, but since then has been a member of the Tennessee Titans, an interior offensive line piece. He's bounced around the Cardinals and the Chiefs all in recent seasons, but he's been a piece of Tennessee's roster. So I was a little bit surprised he didn't even get a mention in the ESPN write-up of their 53-man roster. So what I want you guys to do right now is kind of Madden style, since you all know the roster, and I thought a pure projection would be kind of boring since it's not that different than the one we did recently. Rate the Titans roster for me on a scale of 1 to 100. 1 at the low end, 100 on the high end. Let me know what you guys think right now. Next up, part of my cheating part here, 2 defensive lineman roster cut candidates that were surprising. First up is DeMarcus Walker. He was a late free agency addition, I know, but he does offer flexibility along the defensive line as a defensive tackle and a defensive end, and potentially significantly of his $1.19 rounded up $1 million deal. $600,000 of it was guaranteed. That is over half. So that is not a roster lock contract, but that's someone the team thinks has a very good chance of making it. Also left off it was Deshaun Hand. Now, I don't know if both these guys are going to make the 53 for Tennessee, but these are both relatively notable players who have spent time in the NFL that did not make it for Tennessee. In fact, they went pretty thin among defensive linemen. Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry, Tyre Tart, Laurel Murchison, and Naquan Jones. It is thin to only go with 5, even for a 3-4 front. To only have 5 guys is a little bit light at that position. And they went light at edge as well. So I think there's a roster spot that would be added potentially. Maybe it's UDFA like Haskell Garrett, who was also mentioned in the ESPN piece. Over their careers, Walker has been more productive than Deshaun Hand. But I think Hand's a better fit as a pure 3-4 defensive end. He's been a good run stopper. He flashed early in his career in Detroit and then kind of fell out of favor as the role for him was never quite that defined. Walker's a unique player in the sense that he's played all over for Denver and for Houston most recently. He's been a 3-4 edge, a 3-4 defensive end, a 4-3 defensive tackle. He's kind of played all these different roles, and that versatility, although maybe limits him as a higher-end player, and because, jack of all trades, master of none, the jack of all trades side helps him find one of those last roster spots potentially. So if you could only pick one of these two guys to make the roster, and I am making you pick one, you can't just type in none, who would it be? Type W for DeMarcus Walker or type in H for Deshaun Hand. While you're typing in your answers in the comments section, check out the Fanatics gear deal. It is back, the t-shirt combo pack. $30. These do not last very long. They always sell out quickly. Get the t-shirt combo pack today at chatsports.com/Titans combo. I'll put that link in the comments section and in the description of today's video. Greg Mabin next up here, and this is a little bit of a it's funny because he always gets cut, but he always comes back too. Greg Mabin has had 3 different and separate stints with the Titans since the 2020 season. He gets cut and he gets brought back. He gets cut and he gets brought back. This is a little tricky for Mabin this year because the cornerback depth chart, I think, is more stacked than it's been in a long time. And that is reflected in the roster projection from ESPN. Christian Fulton, Caleb Farley, Elijah Molden, Roger McCreary, all roster locks. And I like having Chris Jackson on there. I am unconvinced of Buster Screen, but he makes it as well. There's some other UDFAs who are worth watching in the end. So Mabin overall has not made a massive impact over his NFL career. 7 pass breakups, has not been a consistently dynamic player in his NFL. He's got good size. 6'2", 195, offers some semblance of special teams value as well. I would still not rule out Buster Screen finding his way on the short end of the stick, but I've made my points and my thoughts on that pretty clear in the past. Do you trust the Titans front office? Y for yes or N for no? Sound off for me in the comments section if you have faith in Mike Vrabel, in John Robinson, etc. at the helm of the Titans organization. I am including an undrafted free agent punter on this list, which I know is maybe confusing. Stonehouse, a UDFA out of Colorado State this year. That's Ryan Stonehouse. He is going to push an aging Brent Kern for this job. The reason why I put him on here is I actually disagree with the mindset from the ESPN article. It was, hey, Brent Kern remains one of the best punters in the NFL. And I don't know if that's actually true. In fact, the numbers say it's not. Brent Kern is coming off his worst year in a long time in Tennessee. And I know he is truly a Titans legend. He's been the punter for years now. But you look at his production and the fact that it has gone in the wrong direction in recent years. Plus, you throw in the $2.2 million saved by cutting Brent Kern. I think it is not a guarantee he makes this roster. This is what we call regression. From 2017 to 2021, the net, that includes returns, of course, on punts, has dropped by 4 yards. That is significant when it comes to punters. The average per punt, by the way, has dropped by about 4 as well. Or by 5. Math is hard for me sometimes. That's a pretty big difference, and it's gotten worse almost every single year, with the net in 2019 being a bit better, with the average being the same. So I would say this. With the savings had for Brent Kern, I think he is fighting for his job. And I think whoever ends up not making the team, cool, I get it, that's fine. Just keep an eye on the punter job, maybe being a little bit more open and maybe being a bit more open to a potential surprise cut, whether it's the UDFA or the veteran and Brent Kern, as opposed to it being he's still a top-end punter. Not to body him, but the numbers don't really back that one up.